There was a time when he was alive in the real world. He wasn't a hero, nor anyone's messiah. He was a hunter of the beasts, hiding among humans, the ones who killed while hiding behind the law, who preyed by exploiting society's rules. He was the one who ended them all. A cold mind, perfect planning, and absolutely no mercy for evil souls. To him, the world was filled with only two kinds of people: herbivores, weak; carnivores, hunters; justice, bravery, nonsense. But the world didn't need him. He was labeled insane, and one day, a police bullet finished the job. As he fell to the ground, bleeding out, he had only one last wish: a world where I can hunt without restrictions. And death listened to him. His eyes opened. But this world was different. A world of martial artists and, along with it, a game-like system. The rules were simple: to become strong, to level up, just hunt. There was no law here. Only power spoke. Sects would shatter, masters would tremble, and all of Murim would understand one thing: he is not a hero, he is not a villain either. He is Murim's most terrifying mad hunter. This story begins on a dark and stormy night, in a village with Eastern-style architecture. A mysterious man wearing a straw hat appears before a grand gate. Suddenly, lightning flashes and everything lights up. Our main character is seen standing on the stairs. Below him, dozens of armed guards are already waiting, ready for battle. One of the soldiers grits his teeth in anger. Pure hatred fills his eyes. The guards recognize him and give the order to attack the nameless hero. In an instant, shouting as they hype themselves up, the guards charge toward the lone man. Even though he's surrounded from all sides, the swordsman remains completely calm. He grips his sword tightly, prepares for a counterattack. With a single fast and precise strike, he drops several enemies at once. The terror on one guard's face shows he didn't even see the attack coming. Beneath the hat, only firm resolve shines in our protagonist's eyes. He keeps moving forward without stopping. As the rain grows heavier, more enemies appear. Everyone shouts to kill him. Without thinking for even a moment, he stomps his foot hard onto the ground. Water splashes everywhere. Then he swings his sword. A red line seems to form around him. Despite being surrounded by enemies, there isn't the slightest hint of fear on his face. He tightens his grip on the hilt and strikes again with a fast, merciless blow. Our protagonist moves across the battlefield as swiftly as mist. Suddenly, a massive brute appears from behind, ready to ambush him. The fat man shouts with a grin on his face, thinking he's already won the fight, but his blade stops just inches from the mysterious hero's neck. In the next instant, blue light bursts from within the swordsman and shoots straight at the enemy. The brute is in shock, wondering how he was attacked from behind. Beneath the hat, the protagonist's gaze is ice cold, and the defeated enemy's hand falls uselessly into a puddle of water. When it's all over, only the lone warrior remains standing. Finally, after the long battle, the hero sits in the courtyard to rest. That's when his eyes fall on a man with a snake tattoo on his back sitting on the veranda. His clothes make it clear he's the boss of this place that was just attacked. He turns, revealing an old, scar-covered face. Then, amid the heavy rain, he waits alone in the courtyard. Our protagonist steps forward, and the two face each other. Both warriors stare each other down. Serious. Dangerous. The old man breaks the silence and asks if he's really the so-called nameless hero. Our protagonist says nothing. He just stands there silently. The boss mocks him, asking why a hero would hide himself so much. The swordsman replies in a cold tone that he is not a hero. The old man is confused and asks why he killed his men then. His eyes begin to glow red as he repeats that he's not a real hero. Our protagonist's answer leaves the gang leader stunned. The old man starts laughing, saying he fooled everyone. But the swordsman says he never fooled anyone. People chose to believe in him themselves. The old man finds this interesting. He draws his sword, releasing a blue aura, and says that even if he falls today, he'll have no regrets. With red eyes, he shouts for him to come and fight. Our protagonist also gets ready for battle. His sword is now wrapped in flames. The gang leader prepares to use his strongest technique. In that moment, time seems to stop and everything moves in slow motion. A raindrop hits the ground and bursts. A small ripple forms and red light flickers in his eyes. Instantly, the swordsman lunges forward. The old man barely manages to track the mysterious hero's movement. In a blink, the two cross paths and the fight ends right there. Our protagonist lands calmly on the ground, his sword now completely soaked in the enemy's blood. Then he starts walking out of the destroyed village. With a faint smile, he sheaths his sword. Finally, he removes his hat, revealing a tired but victorious face. Amid the devastation, red petals fall everywhere among the corpses. A man lies on the ground with a sect symbol carved into his back. In front of a massive temple, a huge crowd of warriors has gathered. At the front stand the leaders of different sects, their faces grim. One master wonders if this really is the Manhwa he once knew. Nearby, a monk silently watches the complete destruction. Suddenly, another leader shouts that this must be the work of a demon, but then he sees something move. Far back among the bodies, a lone figure stands. Slowly, the man walks toward the army. His wounded face becomes clear. As the leaders recognize him, they are stunned. It's the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. The old swordsman declares that he will kill them all one by one. As soon as he says this, he releases a massive wave of red energy toward the army. Seeing this, the monk shouts for everyone to prepare to attack. The red energy crashes straight into the frontline warriors. The attack advances brutally, destroying everything in its path. One sect leader watches with a face full of hatred. In the chaos, a demonic figure shines with a red aura. Seeing this, a mustached man shouts angrily, demanding that the scumbag show himself. A hand emerges from the darkness, holding the severed head of an old leader. Seeing this sight, the Shaolin monk and the woodmaster are left stunned. Nearby, the representatives of Qingcheng and Nanjing also watch in shock. In front of everyone, our protagonist appears and mocks the massive crowd. An old man gets furious at the young man's insolence and tells him to be quiet. Then he asks who this young man is and why he carried out this massacre. Our protagonist replies that he came here because he heard Manhwa was the strongest. As he says this, the defeated leader's head is seen lying on the ground in the next moment. In a cold tone, the young warrior says the rumors weren't very reliable. Seeing the Manhwa leader's head, the remaining leaders are left completely stunned. Without thinking, he throws the head toward the crowd. He mocks the army, saying that if they've all come together as a pack, they must be pretty strong. Seeing the light in his eyes, one master is filled with rage and madness. After that, all the leaders unite and shout that they will kill him to protect their sect's honor. At that moment, the four warriors attack together using their special techniques. But our protagonist just smiles and says that now this place has really become interesting. Suddenly the screen glitches, and it's revealed that all of this was a virtual reality game. The next moment, the young man takes off his VR headset with a satisfied expression. He's sitting on a couch in a dark room. After the long gaming session, he wonders if such a coordinated attack was too heavy for him. Nearby, in a box, lies VR online gaming equipment, a martial arts game famous for its extreme violence and realism. Despite countless emails demanding that it be shut down, he thinks there's nothing else like it anywhere. While watching TV, he thinks that next time he'll try a quieter method. Just then, the news reports that the president of a major company has gone missing. Lost in thought, the young man considers that assassination might work too. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in our protagonist's dark room. The voice slowly whispers, begging someone to save it. The moment he hears this cry for help, he remembers his mission and his target. Without wasting a second, he grabs the sword lying beside the couch. The scene changes, and we see a man on his knees, begging for his life. His face is swollen and covered in bruises, and he cries while pleading for mercy. Then our protagonist appears. In his hands is a massive sledgehammer. With a terrifying smile, he asks if the man really wants it to be spared. The man tries to act innocent, saying he doesn't know why he was kidnapped, but our protagonist doesn't believe a single word and threatens him with the sledgehammer. Then, photos of the man's crimes are shown, and he's completely stunned. The young man says that if he hadn't done anything wrong, he wouldn't have become his prey. The terrified man starts apologizing, repeatedly saying sorry, but our protagonist attacks. The same words echo in his mind. "Spare me." With a cold smile, he completes that sentence for himself. In a brutally cold tone, he says those words have become very boring now and swings the sledgehammer with full force. The brutal blow lands straight on the criminal's face. Our protagonist begins beating him mercilessly. The man tries to counterattack, but the young man easily dodges. Then he blocks his punch. Despite being injured, the criminal curses him with hatred in his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes begin to glow and he swears revenge. This sudden change slightly surprises our protagonist. Now even stronger, the thug leaps to attack, shouting that he'll kill him. But the young man blocks the strike with his weapon, creating a shockwave. The criminal is stunned that his attack was stopped so easily. After that, a powerful red aura erupts from our protagonist's body. He delivers a heavy punch to the enemy's stomach. The man writhes in pain, completely overwhelmed. Finally, the young man ends the fight with one last blast of purple energy. The powerful impact sends the criminal flying backward, completely defeated. His face is horribly crushed. Terrified, he crawls along the ground trying to get away, begging him not to come closer, screaming that he doesn't want to die under any circumstances. Our protagonist explains that most humans are like herbivores, but some are carnivores who prey on the weak and devour them. The criminal looks to the side and sees the shadows of his victims reflected in the glass. The young man tells him that he is a hunter of such predators. His shadow looms over the thug, who is frozen in fear. With blazing red flames, he prepares for the final strike. He drags the sledgehammer along the ground while the man keeps begging him to stop. The thug curls up in fear and screams for the scumbag to stay away. Suddenly, the door is smashed open. Several heavily armed police officers storm into the room. They surround our protagonist from all sides and order him not to move. One of them, a man in a suit, steps forward and introduces himself as Daga Bangu. He shows his badge and arrests our protagonist. The detective stares at him with a serious look, while the young man's eyes glow red. Our protagonist wonders how the police managed to find him. Suddenly, the detective fires a warning shot into the air. Pointing his gun, he warns that the bullets are real, so it's better if he stays right there. Standing in front of the entire police squad, our protagonist isn't scared at all. With glowing red eyes, he carefully observes the situation. He senses something sociopathic in the detective's gaze. With a faint smirk, he explains that the scumbag lying on the ground had killed 6 women. Not only that, he tortured them and took photos before killing them. The bodies lying around are also lowlifes like him. Almost all killers are like carnivorous animals who prey on innocent people. In the end, our protagonist calls himself the hunter of these scumbags. He says the police are misunderstanding everything. He isn't the target. That thug is. Detective Dagabong lights a cigarette and asks with contempt if that's really true, because all he sees is a psycho who kidnaps and kills people. Our protagonist looks to the side. Deep disappointment fills his eyes. At that moment, he realizes that talking to the police is pointless, just like he thought. With that, he grips his weapon's hilt even tighter. Seeing this, the detective shouts at him to stop and fires without hesitation. In an instant, our protagonist moves to the side like mist. The bullet hits him straight in the chest and a massive spray of blood bursts out. As he falls, he thinks that if he gets another life, he'll have only one wish. A place where he can hunt countless beasts without any worries. The Murim world he had played so much would be perfect for him. Suddenly, a blue light covers everything, and the scene completely begins to change. Our protagonist comes to, gasping for breath. He can't understand what just happened. He was sure he had taken a fatal shot. In front of him stands a huge man, shocked that he's still breathing. Our protagonist just stares at him with a cold gaze and burning red fire in his eyes. The man is enraged by his attitude and calls him a little punk. Then, in anger, he grabs him by the collar and shakes him, crying out about how much trouble it took to drag him here. The young man wonders if he should end him right now. Seeing his look, the man gets scared, threatens him, and runs away. Left alone, the young man watches him leave with a dark expression. He tries to get up, but his body doesn't cooperate at all. The man leaves him lying on the filthy floor. Suddenly, a lightning-like pain surges through his entire body. He collapses helplessly onto the ground, muttering that his body is completely ruined. Then he realizes he's lying on something soft like animal hide. Confused, he looks around, trying to understand what's going on. After a moment, he looks at his hands and realizes they aren't his. When he looks down, his body looks extremely thin and weak. As he runs his hand across his back, he feels many old scars and wounds. Shocked, he crawls his way to a small window. The moment he sees the view outside, his red eyes widen. In front of him is the same familiar village with Eastern-style architecture. That's when it hits him. He's really in the world of Murim. With no strength left, he collapses unconscious on the cold, dirty floor. Tears of happiness flow freely from his eyes. Smiling, he remembers that his final wish has come true. A screen appears. Welcome, player, to Murim Online. The scene changes, and we see a stable where the young boy is working, cleaning the place. Horses surround him as he goes about his daily chores. Suddenly, a man kicks the door open and calls out to him by name. The boy turns in shock and recognizes him. It's his master, Mashul. Holding his nose because of the stench, the master tells the boy to come with him. Stuttering, the boy says he hasn't finished cleaning the stable yet. Hearing this, Mashul throws a heavy punch straight into the boy's face without any warning. Furious, the master yells, asking if that sounded like a request. He grabs him and says the Dan family has shown great kindness by taking in an orphan like him. Then he reminds him that he's nothing, just a simple slave. Fear and helplessness fill our protagonist's eyes at this humiliation. After a while, they reach a smithy where an old man is waiting. A large man asks the blacksmith where Mashul is and why Dongo is here. Dongo smiles and says Mashul is enjoying himself with some girls, making a drinking gesture to make it clear what the master is doing. The old blacksmith says he doesn't care, but handling the work with just 2 people will be difficult. Their task is to clear a massive pile of old swords and weapons. Dongo laughs loudly and says they already have a great worker. Saying that, he kicks our protagonist hard in the back. As he lies on the ground, Dongo asks what he's doing and tells him to get up. Then he angrily shouts at him to start carrying the weapons. Rubbing his hands, he smiles as if plotting something. Mockingly, he says that today the protagonist will work alone. With that, he leaves, and the boy remains lying on the ground. The blacksmith watches everything with pity and concern. With no other choice, the boy starts lifting heavy sacks of weapons onto his back. Even after falling multiple times, he doesn't give up and keeps working. The old man praises his effort and tells him to rest for a bit. He notices the boy's face doesn't look right. It's gone completely pale. The blacksmith says he looks like he's about to collapse, but the boy insists he's fine. As he walks, his vision starts to blur, and he hears someone calling his name from far away. A voice in his mind asks him if he really wants to live his entire life like a worm. With no strength left, he collapses onto the ground from exhaustion. At that moment, a new cold determination appears in his eyes. A massive, dark figure stands before him, asking why he isn't moving. With empty eyes, the boy stammers an apology, not understanding what's happening. Without any warning, a powerful punch flies straight toward his face. He wonders where everything went wrong. Was it when his family died in a typhoon? Or when he knocked on the Dan family's door just to survive? With every blow, all the humiliations he suffered in that house come flooding back. In the end, he accepts that his life had been a mistake from the day he was born in this place. Deep within his mind, a mysterious voice begins begging to save him. Returning to reality, our protagonist lies on the cold floor of the stable, but now his eyes glow red. With a dangerous smile and a new cold determination, he rises from the ground, ready to change his fate. With firm steps, he walks back into the stable. Seeing his reflection in the water, he remembers that this body's name is Suyo. Coughing, feeling the pain of this thin, weak body, he looks around the small, filthy place he was forced to live in. Our protagonist realizes this is the same stable from his memories. He understands that the real Suyo died from the beating, and his soul has entered this body. Suddenly, the young man feels something strange and becomes confused about the situation. Then, out of nowhere, a huge blue screen appears in front of him, glowing with bright light. It welcomes him to Murim Online, and he immediately recognizes it as the same status window. Meanwhile, Marshall is walking through the village carrying a bowl of food, muttering that he's the only one in the family who has to clean everyone's mess. With an annoyed expression, he says, "That boy should have gone straight home." He mentions that the boy ran into Podorian, who's famous for his bad temper. Thinking about it makes the master even angrier, annoyed that he had to clean up after that idiot. With a dark look, he considers killing him right then and there. Rage clouds his thoughts, but he stops, realizing it would be risky. He knows that if he gets caught, he'll lose his head. So he kicks the door open and throws the bowl toward the boy, shouting that he's completely useless. The bowl lands on the ground near our protagonist, but he says nothing. With a cold gaze, he begins analyzing the current situation. He realizes that it's been a full 2 weeks since he arrived here. During this time, he's gathered a lot of information from Mashul and what he's seen outside. First, people here use the Chinese language, but this isn't China. He watches guards training with swords in the nearby courtyard. He's absolutely certain this isn't China. The reason is simple. In this world, martial arts are real. People fly. They move at incredible speeds in the blink of an eye. One man practices sword strikes at superhuman speed. An entire group of warriors trains in perfect sync in the courtyard. With his red eyes, he understands the true nature of this world. Martial arts are alive here. The second thing he notices is the status window, or more precisely, the Murim online system that's functioning and that only he can see. Clenching his fist, he confirms that despite the system, this place is completely real. The people here have emotions. They have their own will. He reminds himself that they are alive, walking, thinking, understanding. They aren't game NPCs. They are beings with lives of their own. That's what he thinks. Is he a human or just a player in this world? Staring at the blue screen, he's shocked by the whole situation. Just then, Dongo appears at the door with a mocking smile. Sneering, he says that while the kid was resting, he ended up getting beaten because of some idiot. Filled with anger, he steps forward. But our protagonist stands his ground without fear and faces him head on. He picks up the bowl of food lying on the floor and without thinking, starts eating everything at once. Seeing this, Dongo completely loses it and threatens to kill him right there. As the punch comes flying in, our protagonist blocks the attack perfectly with the bowl. The heavy man is stunned. In the very next moment, our protagonist punches him straight in the face. His red eyes flare brightly. With a new determination, he grabs Dongo by the neck with brutal force in a single instant. Lying on the ground, terrified, Dongo says that the boy he knew is gone. Our protagonist stares at him with pure hatred. In a cold voice, he replies that the man Dongo knew died a long time ago. With a low, beast-like growl, he prepares to end everything. Without hesitation, he slams a powerful punch into the brute's face. Terror spreads across Dongo's face. Blood starts pouring from his mouth. With a dangerous smile, our protagonist continues the merciless assault. Blood splatters everywhere. When the young warrior finally lets all his rage out, he stops after several blows and stands surrounded by a red aura. He closes his eyes, feels the heat of that moment, and thinks about what just happened. Then he asks himself whether he's a human or a player. But he decides it doesn't matter. Looking at the destruction, he becomes fully convinced that this is a real world. He can clearly feel this world's law, survival of the fittest, where only the strong rule. In this place, he can hunt without fear, without hiding his true nature. He sees himself as a predator, like a wolf roaming freely in its natural habitat. It crosses his mind that there are predators here far stronger and far more terrifying than him. Monsters roaming openly in the wild forests outside. Smiling, he says that once his body recovers, he'll start hunting again. For real predators, this place is a paradise full of opportunities. In this divine Murim world, he feels at home for the first time. Back in the present, he sits beside Dongo's corpse and rests for a while. He says the man wasn't even worth hunting, but there's one thing he needs to check. Saying that, he turns toward the body lying on the floor, ready for his test. The moment he says the word inventory, a large blue screen appears in front of his eyes. Looking at it, he realizes something here is different from the game. In Murim Online, the inventory used to be a grid, one item per slot, but but here the inventory is a single massive space. Curious, he reaches his hand into the floating blue screen. The space inside is shocking. He sees his hand inside an area at least 100 pyong wide. Then he looks at Dongo's corpse and a new idea forms in his mind. He walks over to the body, remembering the same method he used in the game. Placing his hand on the man's face, he says, "Inventory storage." The corpse starts glitching like a computer bug and gets pulled into the screen. Our protagonist watches in shock as everything is swallowed by blue light. The blue energy pulls the entire body inside, leaving not a single trace behind. Realizing how useful this ability is for disposing of bodies, he's stunned. He wonders if living beings can also be stored inside and if they would stay alive. Thinking about it, he decides he'll need to do more experiments. The scene shifts to the next day. In a courtyard, several men are talking while our protagonist sweeps the floor. Nearby, 2 men are gossiping, laughing with mocking smiles. The young man keeps working but listens carefully to the guard's conversation. Suddenly, one man turns toward him angrily and slaps him hard across the face without warning. Calling him useless, he asks if he's suddenly gone mute. With a strange smile, our protagonist starts stuttering. Pretending to have dementia, the guard grabs him by the clothes and shouts, calling him a mute. He threatens him to stop the drama. Then he points toward a horse and orders the boy to take it out. The young man bows obediently, keeping up his stuttering disguise. The man scoffs, saying he can't even talk properly, and tells him to get out immediately. After that, our protagonist leads the horse through the village streets. He watches the bustle of the local market, people, shops, noise. His eyes analyze every detail of this new world. Then he notices a few kids hiding in an alley watching him. Without hesitation, one boy grins and throws a stone at him. It hits him straight on the head. Startled, he turns around. With a cold stare, he feels the impact as blood starts running down his forehead. The kids make faces and start mocking him, calling him stupid. One boy teases him by calling him mute Suyo, but the moment he meets his gaze, he panics. In front of them, the young man turns into a shadow, pure rage filling his red eyes. The boy rubs his eyes, unable to believe what he just saw. Our protagonist starts pretending again, acting confused and innocently asking what happened. Acting like he doesn't understand anything, he turns away and continues walking with the horse. Just then, the same boy starts laughing loudly again. The kids throw things at him once more, mocking him as a stuttering mute. As he walks, he completely ignores being called mute and stupid. With his head lowered, he keeps walking silently, not caring about anything. The scene shifts to Mashul, who's grumbling while cleaning weapons and muttering about Dongo. He walks up to Dongo's room door, wondering if he might be dead. The moment he opens the door, he's shocked to see our protagonist coming out. Mashul's eyes widen in complete disbelief. Looking inside, he sees all the weapons cleaned and neatly arranged. He wonders if this little punk actually finished all the work. Staring at our protagonist with a creepy smile, he stays silent. Mashul thinks that after a near-death experience, the boy has changed and started working faster. He wonders if the kid has really improved. Just then, our protagonist holds out a small pouch filled with coins. Mashul opens it and his eyes widens at the sight of so much money. He starts laughing and says, the kid has finally learned how to survive in this world. He slaps him hard on the shoulder and tells him to keep it up. Happy with the money, Mashul walks away, while our protagonist watches him with a cold gaze from afar. He thinks to himself that this fool doesn't even know it's his own money. Walking through the city, Mashul says that to survive, you have to be flexible. Looking at the pouch of coins, he happily says that his pockets are full today. Smiling, he thinks that today he won't be seeing Angang's face, but Chosia's. He reaches a large building and excitedly tosses the pouch into the air. The man standing at the door smiles and calls him Brother Mashul. With a filthy look, Mashul tells him to call Chosia. The doorman looks disappointed and mentions Angang instead, the same girl Mashul often asks for. Mashul is surprised, but then smiles and says that today he wants Chosia. The doorman looks at him with a sly expression, as if something else is on his mind. He stretches out his hand and says that if you have money, you can get anything here. Smiling, he takes the money and sends him to the last room on the second floor. Alone in the room, Mashul waits eagerly for the girl to arrive. Suddenly, a female voice is heard from the other side of the door. She's coming in. The next moment, the beautiful Chosia enters the room and Mashul is completely mesmerized by the sight of her. He thinks about how beautiful she is, so different from the other girl. Clearing his throat nervously, he tells her to sit. The girl kneels in front of him and offers to pour him a drink. Mashul agrees happily with a foolish grin. As she serves him, he compliments her hands. But all of this is being watched through a small hole in the wall. He calls her closer. And at that very moment, a pair of red eyes is watching everything closely. That mysterious eye hidden in the wall follows every movement in the room, and it's revealed that the one watching is none other than our protagonist, his face dark and cold. The scene cuts to the receptionist who gestures for someone to go up to the second floor. Disgusted, he thinks about how Mashul is chasing a girl who could be his own daughter's age. Then he looks at the pouch he received as payment. With a faint smile, he thinks there's never anything wrong with money and happily pockets it. Suddenly, a dark figure appears at the door. Confused, the receptionist greets him. Recognizing the silhouette, he asks if it's really him. He quickly stands up to confront the young warrior who has forced his way inside. Calling him a mute, he arrogantly asks if he even knows where he's barged in. With an angry glare, he threatens him and tells him to get out immediately. Just then, the young man pulls out a pouch of coins, just like Mashul's. Struggling, our protagonist stutters and says the girl's name. With a greedy smile, the man snatches the pouch. He opens it, checks inside, and confirms the full amount is there. Just like before, his eyes light up. Today is going to be double profit. Smiling, he sends him to another room at the end of the hallway. As soon as the path is clear, our protagonist moves toward the room where his target is waiting. Inside, Mashul is getting himself ready, but when he sees a shadow at the door, he panics. The next instant, our protagonist attacks him from behind and starts choking him. Using a piece of cloth, he tightens it around Mashul's neck with all his strength. As the air leaves his lungs, Mashul begins to panic. Pure terror fills his eyes as if he's staring straight at death. He struggles to break free, but there's no strength left in his arms to fight back. Filled with hatred, he calls him a scumbag, but the young man doesn't stop. In the next moment, he smashes a brutal punch into Mashul's face. Without giving him a chance to breathe, he follows up with a powerful knee strike. The force sends Mashul's body flying across the room. The young man's red eyes burn with uncontrollable rage. He steps forward and continues beating the man on the ground mercilessly. Now, only deep desperation remains in Mashul's eyes. Finally, his body goes completely limp and collapses on the floor. The fight is over for good. Grabbing his face, he confirms the job is done. Our protagonist sits beside the corpse, a dangerous smile on his face. His red eyes shine with satisfaction as he looks at his fallen enemy. In Mashul's gaze, there's nothing left but empty finality and blood flowing from his veins. In the darkness, the young man's eyes glow like those of a nocturnal predator. He reaches forward, preparing to store the body in his inventory. With a psychopathic expression, he gets ready to clean up the crime scene. Then his red eyes shift to the bed in the corner of the room. Chosia is lying there, as if asleep. Seeing this, he walks over to her, finalizing his plan. The girl sleeps peacefully, completely unaware of what has happened. Our protagonist sits by the bed and silently watches her. With a cold gaze, he analyzes the helpless girl. He notices the marks on her face and her condition. In his mind, he classifies her as a simple herbivore, weak prey with neither the strength nor the will to protect herself. After completing his objective, he stands up and decides to leave the room. Alone, he pauses and looks at the small crack in the wall he used earlier to spy on Mashul. Taking in the situation, he places his hand on the wall for his final move. Using his inventory, he makes the man's body disappear without leaving a trace. He's glad he practiced this skill beforehand. It will be extremely useful for future hunts. Suddenly, something comes to mind, and he looks to the side thoughtfully. Just as he expected, the game's status screen appears in front of him. It shows that after the fight, his experience bar has increased. From this, he realizes that killing people here actually grants experience points. If he gathers enough points, he can level up. His red eyes shine even brighter. The thought of becoming even stronger excites him. With more power, he'll be able to hunt more easily and gain experience faster. He realizes that in this place, he can become infinitely stronger. With a satisfied look, our protagonist lies down on the floor and calmly thinks. The young warrior now prepares to finish his revenge completely once and for all. After so much violence, a terrifying calm fills his eyes. Smiling, he thinks to himself that he wishes he had a camera. Out in the hallway, the receptionist waits anxiously. After a while, the girl Anggang comes running toward him. He asks if she's already inside, and the question leaves her confused. Angrily, the man yells at Anggang, asking why she took so long, and tells her to go inside immediately. Apologizing for being late, the girl heads into the room, afraid of being scolded. But now, something feels wrong to the receptionist, and his face turns serious. He starts wondering why it's taking so long inside the room. After thinking for a moment, he knocks on the door and calls out for Mashul and Chosia to come out. But only complete silence answers him. Annoyed by the quiet, he curses and angrily shouts Mashul's name. Suddenly, a terrified scream echoes from inside the room. He freezes, then kicks the door open and rushes in without thinking. The sight inside makes his eyes widen in shock. Chosia is curled up on the bed, trembling, completely frozen in fear. A black shadow is hanging from the ceiling, slowly swaying back and forth. Its legs dangle in the air. It's clear that the person is dead. And then it becomes obvious that the hanging corpse is Mashul. The man freezes in shock. The scene shifts, and we are shown Anhui province. With its rivers, plains, fertile land, and lakes, trade flourished here. But where there is money, there are thieves and bandits as well. To control them and maintain order, martial arts sects rose to power. Among all these sects, some became especially famous. The most well-known was the Naming family, but the largest sect was the Dan family. The Dan family was known for its military strength and its Black Crow division. This division was so skilled at gathering information that it was considered even more effective than the Beggars sect. Recently, however, the Black Crow division has been troubled by a serious problem. Inside a room, a man respectfully hands a scroll to his superior. He is Jaidev, the division leader, and his face is extremely serious. The issue is a suicide epidemic in which nearly 100 people have already died. In the first month, there were only a few cases, but never so many at once. The leader suspects this isn't normal because all the cases seem far too perfect. All the evidence points towards suicide, and that is exactly what troubled him the most. He asks who the very first case was. The answer is Mashul. Hearing this, he is shocked to learn that the victim was a member of the Dan family itself. He then asks where the man ended his life. The answer is an inn. The leader decides that he will personally investigate the matter. The subordinate is surprised to hear that the head of the division is going himself, but Jaidev says it's necessary for him to see the crime scene with his own eyes. Soon after, the division leader and his men arrive at Bongyang Inn. He stops in front of a room and asks if this is where everything happened. The receptionist confirms that this is the place where he and Chosia saw the body. With a serious expression, the leader becomes convinced that this epidemic is actually a series of murders. He enters the room and begins searching for clues. After examining the scene, he realizes that it would be almost impossible for someone to enter without being noticed. That leaves him with only one possibility: the wooden wall. He inspects the wall closely and notices that its structure is quite different. Jaidev explains that if the wood were removed, a passage could be created there. But the biggest problem is that the wood in that wall has never been removed. Saying this, he looks up at the ceiling and asks how the beams could have been taken out without destroying everything. The receptionist answers that they couldn't have been, since they're fixed into the floor and ceiling. With no visible point of entry, he starts wondering again if it really was a suicide after all. Considering the situation, he asks if anyone was staying in the room next to the crime scene. The man confirms that there was a guest who arrived at the same time as Mashul. The leader's eyes widen as he asks who it was. The answer comes: Suyo. Meanwhile, our protagonist is riding a horse through the city streets. He thinks about how the man he killed earlier gave him more experience than others. From that, he guesses that the victim was a martial artist, and he realizes that the stronger the person he kills, the more points he'll gain. But he also knows he's still weak, and that for now he'll have to choose his prey carefully between civilians and warriors. Just then, a brute appears with a wide grin and starts praising him. In the next moment, the man and his gang surround him and demand that he greet them. When the young man doesn't respond, they accuse him of ignoring them. With a cold glance, our protagonist identifies them as nothing more than simple street thugs. He remembers that even though the original Suyo was foolish, he was still part of the Dan family. He wonders if the real Suyo truly endured people like this. The brute gets annoyed and punches the young man. At that moment, a shadow grabs him and pulls him aside for a private talk. He's dragged, along with the horse, into a dark alley. With a cold expression, our protagonist considers whether he should just kill them all right here. He thinks about using the inventory, but knows that causing trouble here would be risky. On top of that, he senses that these people wouldn't give much experience anyway. So for now, he decides to hold back. Even so, the gang hits him again and mocks his appearance. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appears in the alley and tells them to stop. The mysterious man scolds his subordinates, asking why they didn't bring him properly. The thug gets scared and calls him Leader Young. Our protagonist silently observes everything. The leader walks up to the horse and says that the noise caught his attention. He explains that his boss loves horses, and he wants to give this one as a gift. With a sly smile, he asks the young man what he thinks of the idea. The gang leader's eyes are filled with bad intentions. Our protagonist realizes that from the very beginning, the plan was to kill him for the horse. But he thinks to himself that this thug picked the wrong prey. He warns him to think carefully before deciding. Instead of answering again, he challenges him. If you're going to do something, then just kill me. The brute freezes when he realizes the young man can speak normally. Enraged, Leader Young attacks. But at that exact moment, our protagonist activates his inventory. A burst of blue light explodes into the air. With a determined gaze, he pulls his sword out of the screen. Leader Young is stunned, unable to understand how this happened. With the sword in his hand, our protagonist prepares a brutal counterattack. At the same time, the horse is pulled into the inventory as well. In the next instant, a massive explosion of purple energy erupts, destroying everything around it. One thug screams in terror that this is sorcery. Then, a screen appears, congratulating him on reaching level 2 from level 1. After that, a powerful red aura bursts out from our protagonist's body. The gang trembles in fear, screaming that this kid is a demon, and they all start running away.